headquarters, the decade-long producer of 9 to Noon, Eric Nordquist, mad producer 1 via the X Machine. Please follow him as 9 to Noon does. And he is here for Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites
is always brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. And you can shop online. A box of meat shows up at your doorstep. That's pretty awesome. Or local Coburn's locations, local co-ops. They love the purple, and they are also proud sponsors of keeping it local, as in Gophers Athletics. So check out Thousand Hills, a Clearwater, Minnesota company. I want to start here. Here is head coach Kevin O'Connell addressing the media yesterday, talking about that first Vikings-Rams matchup on a Thursday night.
We had a little bit of, had some pre-snap issues with, for a variety of reasons, that created a little bit of a pause and a lull in our flow, and they were able to capitalize and, defensively had some chances to get off the field in the second quarter that would have maybe gave us an opportunity. I think there was 2 or 3 penalties on one long drive, and they were able to kind of put us in a position where after losing CD, we were, up against it a little bit, but no excuse. They beat us and won the football game. We got to go try to play a little bit better, more consistent for longer, and see what that looks like.
So I'm curious where your guys' heads are at on this. In a lot of ways, we would, into the Lions game, we look at how that shootout transpired at U.S. Bank Stadium. And so going back to that Rams game, though, everything's so much different. They won 7 of their last 10. They were getting healthy at that time. Mm-hmm. We were kind of all shocked, even Brian Flores admitting that we didn't really think Puka was going to play. So we had to adjust pretty quickly to that. Meanwhile, the Vikings rip off a 9-win streak. You see the worst of Sam Darnold at Jacksonville, really culminating with the best of Sam Darnold on the road against Seattle, the border battle win and all of that. So how much can you really take from that Thursday night earlier this year and try and I guess transpose that on how you intend things to play out on Monday night?
I think the Rams are going to try a lot of the same things that worked against the Vikings in that game. And the 2 things that they really did well, one was fast rhythm passes. And the Vikings, that's a great way. The Vikings got this great pass rush and they blitz. Well, if you're getting rid of the ball in 1.5 seconds, it doesn't matter. And so they were doing quick hitters to the receivers, and those guys can get yardage after the catch. And so here comes a 3-yard pass, but there goes another 5 yards of extra yardage at the end of that. And the Vikings did not react to that. And that was a problem for Minnesota. Then the other was, and this has been an ongoing problem for Minnesota, the intermediate middle of the field passes between our zones. And boy, they ate us up on those in that game. And that's been a problem all year. The Vikings have been susceptible to those 8, 12-yard passes across the middle of the field between the zones. And that hurt. And I think the Vikings I think they'll try to find out whether the Vikings are going to be able to stop that here. And I suspect that they'll attack the Vikings the same way and see if Brian Flores has concocted a way to stop it, because it's been a problem in that Rams game, been a problem for other games, and to this point, I can't tell you right now that the Vikings have a surefire answer for that.
Vikes Bites! Thank you, Thousand Hills. Here's more from the head coach talking about a QB room that now includes Daniel Jones.
The best way I could put it is we're doing everything we can to get Sam ready to go, but at the same time, whether it's Nick or Daniel or Brett now, all those guys are absorbing the game plan like always, and it's such a fluid thing here for the rest of the way. We're going to do whatever we think gives us the best chance to win.
Well, I was watching Notre Dame and Penn State last night, Charch, and they had a quarterback that was better at design runs. You think Daniel Jones is going to roll in here and do some design sneaks?
God, that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
People have been asking a lot of questions, though, about how they're handling Daniel Jones. Is he part of the active roster for the sake of a future compensatory pick if he goes elsewhere? What do you think Daniel Jones's lot in life is, as he is really in a supportive role for Sam Darnold into the postseason?
The compensatory selection part that you brought up is big. So that thus the timing of what has happened. Now, O'Connell yesterday at the press conference, he was pressed on Jones being elevated to the active roster, and what does it mean for the 1, 2, and 3? And he played coy with it. So I'm curious to see what they do with Jones from a roster standpoint, because you can designate him third quarterback, but then he in essence is a scratch game day. and you would have to lose Darnold and your two for him to play. So, I mean, there's maybe a greater chance that Darnold is of course, the starter, and Jones is the the backup than I originally thought. But what you need to get into is like when they start practicing during the regular season. Nick Mullins, I mean, he's going to be in the meetings. He's going to do some stuff with the one offense, but they generally are scout team quarterbacks with Mullins or maybe Jones playing the role of Matthew Stafford this week, and therefore that gets into the preparation or lack thereof for this game. So him being elevated to the active roster doesn't surprise me, but what's next into this game? He may be farther along, as Kevin shared yesterday, than most of us think.
So, do you know can you explain the active roster rule for the compensatory pick? I mean,
no.
Is it just you have to have the last game of the season you play? He has to be on the active roster, or the practice squad players don't count. But at what point do you need to elevate somebody? I hadn't heard this angle until now, and I don't know this rule, but I'm very intrigued because the Vikings don't have a lot of picks in this next draft.
Right.
And if Daniel Jones can net you a 5th-round pick as a compensatory selection, I'm interested.
Kevin Seifert has been all over this for like the last couple of weeks. So either reading his stories or following his tweets, which I have, but I can't remember the answer. That plays into it with the timing of this. I thought it was by the end of the regular season, but it's not. It goes through the playoffs too. So I guess if they lose Daniel Jones, they get a compensatory pick.
Okay, I'm interested in that. And although I believe
I'm interested in keeping Daniel Jones
that's
next
what
year.
I was going to say.
And I think the team is too.
I think so too. But maybe they're just playing it safe. Daniel Jones has to want to come back. And so I think this could be a brilliant move by Kwesi if it does end up working out that he goes elsewhere. And because we elevated him to quarterback 2, we get a compensatory pick. Okay, I'm interested. Also, I'm not opposed to bringing in Daniel Jones for some designed plays that work to his strengths.
Yeah.
It's not like he's an incapable quarterback. He can throw. He can run. Sean Payton does this all the time with like Taysom Hill comes in inside the 10-yard line and does, he'll figure out what the play is. If they like the play as a run, they'll run Taysom Hill. If they like it as a pass, Taysom will throw. You could get creative with Daniel Jones, and this would not be the craziest thing that I've ever heard of, and I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that.
And it potentially, mostly would catch somebody off guard. Not totally, but mostly. Especially if Mullins is now the 3.
Right.
So he's part of the scratches, but he can play if the other 2 get hurt and can't play. So excited to see what happens there. The con.
Well, I like how this kind of evolved from me just kind of curious, like, what's up with Daniel Jones? And thanks to Charch's creativity, it has evolved now. We have to see Daniel Jones doing Taysom Hill bits on Monday night. It's an absolute must, and it's guaranteed to happen. I love that. Vikes Bites! Brought to you by Thousand Hills. Sam Darnold talked to the media as well, and he knows that the postseason, well, it's big.
This is the time when, people that, whether, guys are in the league for a long time, whether they've been with the same team for a long time, whether they're going, bouncing around the league, it's kind of, where legacies, I guess, are made in the playoffs, not just winning games, but winning, those later games like AFC, NFC championships, winning Super Bowls. Like that's how you're going to be remembered at the end of the day. Looking 50 years down the line, that's what people are going to remember.
I mentioned this earlier this week to PA as if it was some sort of shocker. It's super obvious, other than Jaden Daniels of the Commanders and then Bo Nix. You talked about him last segment. This is the first playoff game for Sam Darnold. No playoff experience, no postseason experience. Now, he's not a rookie, so that's an advantage or a benefit of time served. But what do we think about Sam seizing his first postseason opportunity and handling business on Monday night?
I'd contend last week was a playoff game. In many ways, I feel like it was. It certainly had the atmosphere. It had many of the ramifications of a playoff game. It completely changes the trajectory of your playoff run. And we did not see the best of Sam Darnold. And I feel like that moment got to him. now he's got a chance to change that narrative a couple of different ways. I mean, he had a bad Jacksonville game, came back, changed the narrative the next week.
Yep.
Can he rebound from last week's bad game and play better here and recraft the narrative? You do not want Sam Darnold. It would be, I don't want to use the word disaster, especially with things going on in LA and everything else. It would be really harmful for Sam Darnold's career path if he goes dud, and the Vikings are out of the playoffs.
Ooh.
I mean, that is not how he wants to enter the offseason as a free agent. There is a lot at stake for Sam Darnold personally, professionally, both as an individual and as a member of the Minnesota Vikings, to put together a really good game here. And I want to believe that the moment's not going to be too big for Sam, and that he's going to be able to get past last week's game, turn the page, and play much better.
If you were to ponder, let's say, two teams next season that potentially would want the services at a fair price of Sam Darnold, which would they be? I'd be like, while Cleveland is the second overall pick in the draft, they're going to take a quarterback.
No.
But nevertheless, they may want Sam Darnold. So I'll put Cleveland in there.
Yeah.
What one would you put in there?
Raiders.
Okay.
So you're the Raiders. You're picking 7. You don't have a path to go get a quarterback, and you need a quarterback.
Here's the point. It's not that I believe in karma, but the karmic convergence here would be you have entities all over the NFL, like Messrs. Stefanski, Barry, whomever the new coach and or GM for the Raiders is going to be. Tom Brady's part of their ownership group. They're all rooting for Sam to have back-to-back duds.
Yeah.
Because if he hits the market, the old price probably has gone down
Quite a bit.
So we have so many entities rooting against us around the country. Isn't that what it's like to be a Vikings fan, ladies and gentlemen? Can I get a witness? And a raucous round of applause. What's next?
Hey,
Well, and to that point, Paul, I do think this team has thrived on the underachiever, that people have expected, low expectations. And, this team all season long, they came in as with a 6.5 point win expectation by bettors. They obviously blew that away. And right when the sort of the narrative of the Vikings started to pick up nationally and people started to believe, we rolled into Detroit and crapped the bed. So maybe now that maybe things are going to be different and that this team is going to like the positioning that they've got right now better. Now, granted, they're favorites to win. They're betting line favorites to win.
Yeah.
But, there isn't sort of the national mojo on this team that they had 1 week ago today.
Fair.
Just one last thing. When you were talking about specifically Bo Nix last segment, you said at PA and against the Bills, I totally agree with you that this is too big a stage for him. He's not ready for this particular moment.
We'll see.
But I agree with you. What I was curious though is where's your head on maybe on one particular thing that says that Sam Darnold, no playoff experience, but certainly a longer tenure in the league, what makes him ready for this moment potentially?
Older, has seen more mature, has had a better season than Bo Nix, can call on things that he has done repeatedly with better skill guys around him than Bo has. He's on the road, but is he really on the road with this game at State Farm now? And what Bo Nix is rolling into could be 40-mile-per-hour Calcutta Clippers in his face. There could be snow. It ain't easy winning a Bills Mafia. He's playing a better team than we're playing. I like Buffalo. Well, you know what? The Rams beat the Bills, so I probably shouldn't go down that road. But just those factors right there where just professional maturity for Sam Darnold is one thing on which I'm counting.
Yeah, I dig that. Vikes Bites! Thank you, Thousand Hills. This just into my email inbox. TJ Hawkinson is the 2024 Ed Block Courage Award recipient for the team. So the Ed Block Courage Foundation annually honors one player from each team who exemplifies commitment to the principles of sportsmanship and courage. And we absolutely love TJ. Yeah. He's played in 10 games. And I guess, Chart, specifically to you first, 41 catches, 455 yards, no TDs.
Yeah.
And Sam was putting him in some awful spots. He missed him on this 3rd and 17. That is a quick 25, easy all day.
The middle of the field bit.
Yeah.
You
After
go,
the
you go back
17-yard
and watch
sack.
that. You go back and watch that play and the 5 touchdowns he missed. It's like watching Saw 8. I mean, it just seriously. It's like the masochist in me went back and watched some of those things last night. I'm like, why'd I do that, man?
Well, the reason I bring it up, though, is Sam did miss him a bunch last week and has missed him maybe other times that just weren't as impactful as last Sunday's game. But all the same, the impact of TJ Hawkinson charge, have you felt it since he returned from injury? Do you feel like there was a ramp-up period of just getting to be 100% again? Are we getting what we need out of TJ? What do you think?
I'm going to be honest with you, and I honestly, no, I don't. Not quite. I had higher expectations for what his impact would be, especially at this point, right? Coming off the ACL, I take a month to sort of get right. I expected it to be a more impactful return for the Vikings, and not just from like a fantasy standpoint because he doesn't have any touchdowns yet. I wanted to see more big time catches. I wanted to see him like come down with that ball on the sideline last week that we needed for that first down. I want to see him make those tough catches and differentiate himself. I don't feel like we've got the old TJ Hawkinson quite back yet, and I was hoping by now we'd be there. So I don't like that answer. I don't feel good about it, but if I look at myself honestly and I look at what we've gotten from TJ, I don't feel like we've quite got the pre-ACL version yet. That's pulling down contested catches. That's finding ways to get open in the end zone. I don't feel like we've gotten that version of him yet.
Vikes Bites. Thank you, Thousand Hills. A couple more specifically on the Rams here. You've talked about this the last few weeks, specifically from a fantasy perspective, Charge, that Cooper Kupp, 3 consecutive games in a row.
Just
three targets a game, a total of 4 catches in the last 3 games.
Come on, this under.
They got the week, though. They got to chill a little bit.
Come with this
So,
under.
are we going to make a proclamation here that Cooper's cooked, or do we still have a dual A topic in Puka and Kupp on Monday night? Where are you at?
This is so hard to figure out because Cooper Kupp's been such a big part of this offense for so long. And inexplicably down the stretch in games the Rams needed, not week 18, but even going back before that, week 17, week 16, week 15, guys barely even getting targeted.
Yeah.
And Sean McVay knows everything there is to know about how to get Cooper Kupp open, get him into windows, and to throw him the ball 12 times a game if you want to. And Sean McVay isn't. McVay is finding other players to go to, not Cooper Kupp. Maybe he's injured in a fashion that we don't know about and isn't on the injury report. Maybe that's part of why Cooper Kupp's getting ignored in this offense. Or maybe Cooper Kupp that Sean McVay feels like Cooper Kupp's lost a step. We really don't know yet. Nobody would be surprised if Kupp's got plenty of game left and he tortures the Vikings. Vikings have struggled with slot receivers for a lot of this year and a lot of big games. Keenan Allen roasted this team. Ray McLeod 5 weeks ago had 9 catches against the Vikings, I think. I mean, the Vikings have struggled in the slot. Cooper Kupp is a huge X factor in this game, and I don't know the answer for why the Rams have decided, I mean, very purposely, not to include Cooper Kupp in game plans down the stretch.
So in all of his games this year, he has averaged 8.3, including these duds recently. 8.3 targets a game.
Yeah.
If I was to put him at 6.5, which way are you going?
I have to go under based on the fact that they haven't thrown to him for a month.
Wow.
So I don't think they're just like, oh, we're gonna try to fake out our first round opponent, whoever that might be. Like, I don't think a month ago they were like, yeah, we're gonna start crafting this big con game for our first round opponent. They'll never see it coming. We're gonna not throw to Cooper Kupp for a month, and then in the first game of the playoffs, we're gonna unleash him. I don't think there was anything like that happening.
Well, consider this or factor this in. With Sean McVay giving his best players, his ones, the majority of his stars, the week off in their most recent game against Seattle. He, in essence, has had a bye. So Cooper has had an extra amount of time for the medical and training team to work with him, for him to limber up or whatever. Do we believe that's any factor into this extra time to get ready?
Yes, it very well could be. I mean, Sean made a calculated decision to rest his starters when they could have potentially moved up one spot in the playoff seeding. Decided it was more important to them to rest. We don't know who's hurt, how hurt, who's banged up, and but what we do know at the end of a long season, having that extra week off for your starters, huge. Everybody's going to be at full go health-wise for this game, and that's you get also, by the way, you get to rest Kyron Williams. That's no small thing. They run him a lot, but 2 weeks ago they brought him down to 13 carries, and last week he didn't play. And that guy has got fresh legs, and that's going to be a problem for Minnesota.
Well, that's my final Vike Bite, brought to you by Thousand Hills Charch, because Kyron Williams, I think, could be a problem. And you watch the way that the Lions have employed Jameer Gibbs, against the Purple in just 4 games, all those TDs that PA mentioned earlier in the show. But Kyron, 23 totes and just under 100 yards in that first game. And they haven't run the ball a ton the last 2 weeks. And you mentioned kind of taking some tread off the tires or keeping some tread on the tires of Kyron. Can they do with Kyron what Jameer Gibbs did to the Vikings a week ago?
No. I mean, they can get to 4 touchdowns with him because he does score a lot of touchdowns. They don't play the same way. Kyron is not as fast as Jameer. He's not as twitchy as Jameer. They don't use him on the perimeter as much as Jameer. He's more, when they screen, it's more middle screen, a lot between the tackles. He breaks tackles every bit as well as Jameer Gibbs.
He's really good at that.
They're different guys, but he was a factor in that game with the catching and with the rushing. Other factors, if you go back to week 8, all right, the Rams missed TJ Hawkinson and they missed Blake Cashman. The Vikings missed left guard Stephen Avila, who they like a lot, second-year TCU, and they also missed Tyler Higbee. And Higbee, I mean, we're not, Andrews, Kelsey,
no,
and some of the greats in the history, Mark Bavaro, are not blushing. But Tyler Higbee has done a lot of good things for the Rams for a lot of years, and he's a well-rounded tight end with his pass protection and his blocking. So we missed Higbee, but they're one of the under the radar facets from week 8 to now for the Rams is I had heard this in the preseason because the guy just tore it up in the preseason, but who's really following the Rams preseason that closely? They have a rookie, I think he wears 48, defensive player named Omar Speights. Omar either made his debut or his starting debut week 8 against the Vikings, and he had some problems. They're really high on him. He tore it up in the preseason, and he's really, really come on strongly. So with Speights, along with Verse and Fisk, Byron Young in his second year, and so on, Colby Turner, I believe in his third year, or second year, that plays into what Nordo brought up earlier about the draft picks that they've had and just how well they're doing with these young players. A lot of them are on defense, but Speights and Higbee, those are a couple of facets that we just did not have to deal with that much week 8 compared to what we're going to see this weekend or Monday.
Yeah, it's it's a well-rounded team, offensively and defensively, Paul, that doesn't have glaring weaknesses that you can go expose, and it's largely because they've drafted well, they plug-and-play players, and, you look at the Rams, you go, well, okay, you're going to go beat the Rams because you're going to run against them.
Right.
Or they just don't have these glaring deficiencies because they've drafted so well. They don't have to worry about that.
Okay, now if you missed it, the game Monday against the Rams, Arizona, where the Cardinals play, State Farm Stadium, and tickets are going to go on sale today for those interested here, going there, or those listening throughout iHeartRadio around the country, because KFAN has a lot of those listeners. So if you missed it, here's how the ticket situation works. And it starts and or is completely through SeatGeek. All right, SeatGeek is where you need to go. At noon today, the LA Rams season ticket holders get a 2-hour crack at those seats because there are no seats sold at State Farm Stadium at this stage. So LA Rams season ticket holders at noon at SeatGeek, they're first. Then at 2 o'clock, the public gets involved. And anybody can buy seats from anywhere, at anywhere in that stadium beginning at 2 o'clock. and that's all through SeatGeek. Now, the NFC playoffs also commence this weekend. AFC on Saturday, NFC on Sunday and Monday. We discussed the weird, to a certain extent, hold-the-nose aspect of hoping Green Bay beats Philadelphia and then the Vikings can win on Monday night. But there's one in the middle, sandwiched between those two, where in case you've missed it, to get the Minnesota Vikings back to U.S. Bank Stadium for the divisional round, it's go Commanders, go against Tampa Bay. Right, the con?
Commanders!
Victory!
Commanders!
On the warpath!
Hey!
For only sing!
Friday Football Feast, Buffalo Wild Wings, Savage. Great to see everybody. Alec Lewis from The Athletic here at 11 o'clock, and we be right back on KFAN.
Vikes Bites.
Ivy.
The NFC.
Yeah.
And we have 3 games, the Vikings being the final game. We will handle 2 of the games here, much in the same vein as the way we handled the AFC about an hour ago. Point spreads and fantasy preferences for those interested in playing playoff long fantasy football through the Super Bowl. You can play it at guillotineleagues.com. Consider that. And we begin Sunday, middle of the day, Green Bay's at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is favored by 5 points in this game. So handicap this if you are so inclined, and share some of the fantasy guys that you would like to have.
What if I'm not inclined? I'm just going to kick back and let you take the whole segment.
Then I can take the whole segment. I'm used to doing that Monday through Thursday.
Packers, Eagles. Eagles are favored by 5. I think you mentioned that. That's Sunday at 3:30. Eagles are the NFL's most complete team, Paul. If I had to wager right now on who's going to win the Super Bowl, I would take the Eagles. This is a really, really good team without any obvious deficiencies. Here's some stats to back that up. On offense, rushing yards per game, the Eagles are number 1 in the league. On offense, your quarterback for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, has the 3rd highest quarterback rating in the NFL. So they can pass their way to victory. They can run their way to victory on offense.
Yeah.
How about the defense? Their run defense in yards per carry ranks 4th best, and their pass defense in yards allowed this year ranks number 1. This is a really, really solid roster without any obvious deficiencies. And then there's the Packers. A lot of things have gone wrong for the Packers, and still a good season by, I think, any measure. But they're
11 victories,
right? Is it? I think, are they at 12? Are they 11? 12?
I thought it was 11.
Maybe you're right.
11 and 6.
Thank
11
you.
and 6. Thank you. Lack of reliable production from those wide receivers is one of the key things that I think has hurt the Packers this year, Paul. They've got good receivers, but you know what they don't have is any explosive receivers outside of Christian Watson, and now he's got an ACL. That takes the vertical game away from this Packers offense. And in the 3 games that Christian Watson has been hurt here at the end of the season, the average pass distance for Jordan Love, he had the 3rd longest average pass distance in the games with Christian Watson. In the games without him, he's dead last among NFL starters. Christian Watson takes the explosive deep plays away when he doesn't play, and it's all dink and dunk stuff for Jordan Love. They've got to be able to get some more explosiveness from that offense and from the passing game. That's a big factor here. Saquon Barkley has obviously been great, and the Packers' run defense, middle of the pack, they've had a variety of different struggles there. Vikings largely beat that team on the ground.
Hey, would you take Barkley ahead of Hurts in the Guillotine League through the Super Bowl bit.
I would take Barkley first overall among every player available in the playoffs. He'd be my first choice.
I played a $50 bit last night with 5 people at guillotineleagues.com.
Oh, thank you.
And I should have taken Barkley. I didn't.
Did you have the first pick?
No, I had the third pick. I ended up with I took Hurts.
You took Hurts. Okay.
Yeah. No, second pick. I took Hurts. It went maybe Josh Allen first.
Yep.
Something like
sure.
that.
That which makes sense. I mean, these great rushing quarterbacks make sense as well. But I think you probably found out running back gets thin in the playoffs, and I don't know how you draft it after that. But
well, you know what I think when it comes to the 8 players that you get via Guillotine League or fantasy drafts throughout the playoffs, where it doesn't have to be one from each team. You can take as many from each team as you want.
Right.
David Montgomery is one that people are forgetting.
Yeah.
And you can, I got David Montgomery with like my second to last pick.
Yeah.
Now he will play in the playoffs is what the belief is.
He will, but the catch is he won't play this week.
Right.
And you could get chopped this week.
Yeah, good point.
And so you got to, you need to survive this week.
It's a chop?
It's a chop.
Right.
We're chopping. Yep, we're chopping.
I'm out.
So that's going to be tricky. And but if you can survive that, you have a huge advantage because you've got David Montgomery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you like Eagles -5?
I like Eagles. I like Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I like Eagles -5 here. I like them to cover the spread here. If there's a Packer that's going to make a difference, and if the Packers are going to win this game, it's got to be Josh Jacobs. This is why they got Josh Jacobs, and I think why they looked at their decision on Aaron Jones, who everybody loved as a person. They respected his play.
I know, right?
And they looked at Josh Jacobs and they said, we want a power back in January who can go to a cold surface, whether that's Lambeau or it's the Eagles or wherever, and can just pound the ball. You're going to see them try hard to get Jacobs going. I wouldn't be surprised, no matter the score, if he carries the ball 20 times in this game, even if they're trailing throughout. It's Josh Jacobs is to me the path to victory for them.
I like Philly to win. That 5 for a quarterback who can throw a little bit. That's the 5 scares me. That's a very tricky number. So I like the Eagles to win. I wouldn't play it if I were playing, at least the point spread. But from a fantasy standpoint, the Green Bay Packer that I like here is Jaden Reed, and he's gotten lost a little bit in the equation.
He really has, yes.
But I think he's going to be found in this game because they need pop with their offense. They need run after catch.
Yep.
Now Jacobs has been terrific. He's not a perimeter guy.
Right.
They need work on the perimeter to make Darius Slay, the rookie. What's the rookie's name? Quinyon Mitchell.
Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell,
Thank
and
you.
they've both been outstanding.
Yep, DeJean gets the slot guy, and that's why I need to go outside the numbers. So I just have a feeling Jaden Reed sitting on a big game here.
Do you think they run? They haven't run him very much this year,
right?
And I'm with
of
you,
late.
right? You can run Reed on these jet sweeps and attack the edges in a way Josh Jacobs can't.
Yep,
I'm with you on that, and I hope they do use Jaden Reed that way.
But I do believe Philadelphia would win. Will win the game, and we again. I mean, if you want to get tricky, and root for a team that many of you despise. Yours truly will be pulling for Green Bay, then pulling for Washington, then pulling for the Vikings on Monday night, so we can have a game at U.S. Bank Stadium in the divisional round. It's the time of the year to play that game, and I'm a willing participant when it comes to playing that game. So
I'm with you. And anything that gets the Eagles, to me, again, Eagles are the best team, the best complete team in the NFC, and if we can get an upset and get them out of the playoffs, that's ultimately good for the Vikings.
I like Detroit better than I like Philadelphia from a finish line standpoint, and most of it for me comes down to the coaching staff.
Yeah.
It's just Detroit is so organized and so squared away, and they have counter punches for everybody's uppercut. And obviously Goff has been there before, likewise for Jalen Hurts. I mean, I'm splitting hairs here, but the until the Sirianni bit really gains cohesiveness, and I mean we're 3 weeks removed from this team winning 8 in a row. And Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith basically nearly fighting, because at least verbally fighting because A.J.'s not getting the ball enough. And they just win a game, and after the game, the media is like, well, what do you think? What needs to get better with the offense? And they're like, passing. Yeah, I mean, they know when they say that publicly, it's going to go right at the quarterback. So they still do things like that.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the Lions, and I agree, the coaching to me is far better on the Lions side. Did you see Aaron Glenn, who has accepted every job interview he's been offered?
Yeah.
Except the Patriots.
Yeah, put a fat L on Mr. Kraft.
You know what? I'll talk to everybody else. I am not talking to the Patriots. That was a little bit surprising to me, to be honest.
All right, now to close, Washington at Tampa Bay at Raymond James. The Buccaneers are favored by 3 points. What you going to do here, and which two fantasy guys do you like the most?
Bucs feel like a team nobody wanted to see make the playoffs because they can just outscore anybody in a game. Baker Mayfield playing extremely well. They're winners of 6 of the last 7. Now, granted, pretty much all their wins are against bottom-tier teams except the Chargers. And over those 7 games, winners of the 6 of the last 7, as I mentioned, they're averaging 32 points per game, the most in the NFL. I mean, this is a great offense. And keep in mind, they lost Chris Godwin for the season. I mean, it was even better then. The Bucs defense has been quietly playing much improved. It was really bad for a long time, and everybody was hurt. They still have a lot of injuries, but they're just playing a lot better. Over the last 7 games, Bucs are giving up just 17 points per game on defense. Bucs have 2 just emerging stars on offense, Paul. Bucky Irving is one of the 5 best running backs in the NFL. He is awesome. And Jalen McMillan is their rookie receiver.
Yep.
He's come on really, really strong with the void that Chris Godwin left. Jalen McMillan has stepped right into it, and he's been fantastic. There's Jaden Daniels. He's the rare rookie quarterback where you can say the moment might not be too big for him. Remember, a month ago, the Commanders needed that win against the Eagles, and he went out there and he beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. I mean, this kid has got ice water in his veins. He had all those big moments at LSU that he rose to the occasion for.
Right.
I don't think the moment's too big for Jaden Daniels, but in totality, the Bucs to me are just a better team with more offensive weapons than what the Commanders bring, which is really just Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin on offense, and that's it.
I like Tampa Bay -3. I think Washington, over the totality of the game, is going to have problems with Tampa Bay's passing game. Thus, for my taste, Mike Evans is my favorite fantasy guy out of this game, and really moving forward for the Buccaneers. 9 to noon is at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. Hey, it's the Friday football. Yeah, we're feasting, so come on by. Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. Alec Lewis from The Athletic about 15 minutes from now. Don't leave.
Oh, good.
You homer!
All right, tell me what you want to do with these. I crafted some questions. I crafted about 15 questions. In a buy or sell and why like fashion.
Okay. Am I buying? Am I selling? And why?
Correct. And
okay.
I unfurled half of them to Nordo yesterday, and I saved some for you. And let's begin here. I'll offer the statement. You tell me in stock-like fashion if you want to buy it, if you want to sell it, and why. And we will begin here. The Baltimore Ravens will win the Super Bowl.
I am sell, but not for the reasons that everybody else is.
Of course
where not. Everybody thinks Lamar Jackson can't win a big game and he can't get that team to the Super Bowl. I think he's great, and I don't think that is a problem.
Oh, it's a problem, but I think it's a problem that may be solved this year.
Yeah, and it might be solved this year.
I've flipped on him a little bit.
He should be MVP, and I think the only reason that he's not the runaway MVP is that he's just won it recently.
Yeah.
That's all, and there's just sort of voting fatigue, which is not fair to him. Mm-hmm. This is statistically his best season. Lamar Jackson's great. The passing's been way, way better. He's turned Zay Flowers into a huge X factor here as well. But I think at the end of the day, in my bracket, Paul, the Ravens have to go to Buffalo in the middle of winter and go win a game there, and I think Buffalo would win that game. I just think that I don't know. For whatever reason, I feel like Buffalo as a home team would be the better team between those two if it comes down to that spot.
Right.
If they've got to travel to the Chiefs, I don't know that they get that Chiefs win in Kansas City either. I trust Buffalo to win a game in Kansas City before I trust Baltimore. So not quite there. I'm selling.
The Derrick Henry factor. I mean, okay, he's Derrick Henry. He's King Henry. He's a beast. But it's a run first approach with a running back in a passing league. So Saquon does it differently than Derrick Henry. Hurts runs, but it's different than Lamar Jackson. The way they've gotten that thing to mesh with the play action and Lamar breaking the pocket with his eyes down the field, there are guys open all over the place. I mean, it's just the Derrick Henry factor compared to Dobbins and Edwards and the totality of games where they just stop tripping on Dobbins and Edwards late in games. And it's like, hey, if these guys are going to beat us, with 6 in the box, then they're going to beat us. But we're not going to let this quarterback run willy-nilly and then have people wide open on gotchas. You can't do that with Derrick Henry. I mean, you have to stack that box or he'll go 70 on you.
Right.
So things I've seen from Lamar this year, specifically with Mark Andrews being as healthy as he's been in a while, that they're going to be tough. They're going to be really tough no matter where they have to play. And I've just, Lamar Jackson, he has missed throws that you can't miss in the postseason, throwing some of these knuckleballs. A lot of that's changed this year, and he's coming through with what he's supposed to come through with as a quarterback, where in the past, in the regular season, he has, but in the postseason, in the biggest moments, he hasn't. I'm thinking he's going to do it this year, so I have hashtag faith in Lamar Jackson.
I would not be surprised if they're in the Super Bowl or even win the Super Bowl. Wouldn't shock me at all. I just think the path ultimately has to goes through Buffalo, and I think that's a tough spot for them.
What do you think about Baltimore's defense?
Baltimore's defense has gotten way better. Well, they've been great against the run all year. They've been almost impossible to run upon all year. First 2/3 of the season, their pass defense was really bad.
Right.
Like last in the league. They have flipped that almost 180 in the last 6 or 7 games. They are getting so much better play out of their cornerbacks, especially than they were getting in the first part of the season. That they've become they've become very good on both sides of the ball now, and that improvement in pass defense has not eroded their run defense. So it hasn't been like, well, we're putting resources into our pass defense and taking it away from the run. There's still a great run defense, too. So they've become a much more balanced defense now.
All right. Buy or sell and why? You touched on it a little bit earlier. I'm going to be more pointed with it. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp for the LA Rams. Cooper Kupp has had 9 targets his last 3 games, 3 in each game. They targeted him 3 times 3 games ago. He had 0 catches.
Yes,
that's crazy. So I think Cooper Kupp 9 targets the last 3 games, 4 catches, 53 yards, 0 touchdowns. Buy or sell? Cooper Kupp is all done due to injuries. Come on.
So I guess I'm selling Kupp. I'm buying the concept that you're suggesting.
You're buying the concept.
I'm buying the concept,
but
and
to buy the concept, you have to buy the 2 words, all done.
I can't go all done. Yes. I can't do that yet.
Pay the under.
It's you can't. I can't do that yet because Cooper Kupp's been too good for too long.
Yeah. And he's awful, baby buy.
I will augment what our earlier discussion on Cooper Kupp with this, Paul. Something that Scott Fish just had mentioned to me earlier. He's played 12 healthy games this year, and this really exemplifies the change that this team has had in how they're using him. First 6 games, he got targeted in the end zone 7 times. That's great. The second 6 games for Cooper Kupp, he's been targeted in the end zone 1 time in 6 games. Ooh! And that it tells me there's something inside that Rams organization with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. They just don't trust him the same way. They're not designing plays for Cooper Kupp the same way. Something is up. Am I ready to pound nails into Cooper Kupp's career coffin? No. I can't go there yet, but something is clearly wrong.
Buy or sell and why? 2 to go as we eagerly await the arrival of Alec Lewis from The Athletic and theathletic.com to break down the Vikings and the Rams. Here we go. Sam Darnold will throw for 3 or more touchdowns versus the LA Rams. Buy or sell, and why? You see that countenance? Wow, it's
Yeah,
radio.
that's.
I wish it was TV.
All right,
That one.
That is asking a lot. I don't think.
3 or more, and why?
Yeah, I'm going to sell on that. I'll go under.
You bastard.
I don't think they have to. Hopefully, they don't need 3 touchdowns from Sam in this game. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't think the Rams have given up 3 in a game very often.
Ooh.
And I want to believe that the Vikings are going to win this. It's going to be a balanced attack with plenty of Aaron Jones. Went away from Aaron Jones way too fast last week. I want to believe that it's going to be much more balanced here, and we don't need Sam to throw his arm out of socket to go win this game.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take the under on this, and Rams secondary is not great. I don't have Sauce Gardner back there, but it's good enough that I think you have a more balanced approach.
And finally, for the Denver Broncos, they got a little rookie quarterback named Bo Nix. So let's not forget this draft that we had last April, I believe it was, April or early May. I think it was 6 quarterbacks taken, within the all offense. We know that from Jaden Daniels through Caleb Williams and Bo Nix, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and so on.
Yeah, Penix.
Michael Penix, thank you. We know how ballyhooed it was. Well, now we've played the season. Bo Nix. So let's say all the careers are done. Buy or sell, and why this? Bo Nix will end up the best quarterback from the 2024 draft.
Well, we're selling hard on that, and I mean, Jaden Daniels won the Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think 14 times this year. Play Offensive Rookie of the Week, rather, 14 times.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is the clear class of these quarterback group. Now, none of them look like busts so far. I mean, if you go top to bottom, Caleb Williams is not yet a bust, but he's the wobbliest of the group. Then you went Jaden Daniels, who was awesome as both a passer and a runner.
You think Caleb's more wobbly than Drake May?
Drake May's looked really good, playing behind the league's worst offensive line with no receivers to throw to.
Yeah, even when things are bad for Drake May, he's calm.
And they're always bad. It's always a catastrophe in the pocket, and here he is running for his life, throwing on the run, throwing 30 yards downfield on the run. Nobody watching Patriots games. Drake May is legit. Then I think Penix went next. If I've got the sequencing right, Penix gets dropped into this spot where he's got good wide receivers and Drake May and Ray McLeod and Darnell Mooney. He's got great running backs to hand the ball off to and a good offensive line. And he's walked right in and he's looked poised. He's looked accurate. He's played really well. I love what we've seen from Penix. Then it went J.J. McCarthy. We don't know. And then we've got Bo Nix, who's looked good. And so really this whole class looks promising, and the guy who went first looks the shakiest out of the whole group.
9 to noon heads into the final hour. Alec Lewis, one of our favorites, will join us here at Buffalo Wild Wing Savage around the corner. There we will deep dive the Vikings and Rams from State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Tickets for Rams season ticket holders go on sale 1 hour from now, and they're all via SeatGeek. And then at 2 o'clock, they're open to the general public via SeatGeek. So you can buy tickets to the Vikings and Rams and wild card festivities on Monday night, 7 o'clock KFAN time, at 2 o'clock via SeatGeek, and we'll be right